just back on yesterday's announcement, so the Labour government obviously in 2018 had to phase in cheaper doctors' visits, and that was sort of characterised as a sort of failing on an election year promise. How certain are you that tomorrow's policy won't face any delays or roll-out issues?
So we've set ourselves a year-and-a-half implementation timeline, so the full eligibility will kick in from the 1st of July 2028. That gives us a year and a half to make sure we're working through the commitments that we've made around freeing up the 4.5 million extra GP visits so that our GP practices can actually cope with any increase in demand.
So that clinical triage work will all have to be in place basically before the work?
That's right, that will be in place, so that'll be rolled out over the first year and a half or so. We've got an implementation time frame for that. I'm sure nzherald could give you details about which bits happen when. Some are quicker to implement than others.
So you've been given an ironclad guarantee that won't face any issues?
We will be working very hard to make sure that everybody can access their 3 free doctors' visits from the full implementation date, which is the 1st of July 2028.
The heads of 2 GP associations have come out and are pretty clear that there just aren't enough doctors, even with your plan to free up X amount of appointments. So what don't they understand?
We've worked with them, so we have been talking to them. We've had feedback from them that they believe we can meet it. There is a lot of pressure in the system and we need more GPs. So we'll be doing that as well. We'll also be focused on getting more GPs into the system. We've got further policy announcements to make about that as well.
So how confident are you that the advice you're getting is correct? I mean, there's 2 heads of 2 pretty large GP associations who are saying that they thoroughly doubt that you're going to be able to do what you say you can.
I'm confident, based on the analysis that Dr. Herald has been doing, including working with representatives of GPs, that we will be able to deliver by the 1st of July 2028 the 3 free visits that we are promising.
Can you give an indication on when you might make that further health announcement around the GPs?
There'll be further announcements between now and the election of all the other aspects of our health policy. Workforce is clearly going to be a focus for us. We know that our health workforce is under a lot of pressure.
What's your expectation of behavioural changes when it comes to CGT?
In terms
of property investors and potentially rental investors maybe doing up their home to use that as depreciation rather than paying the tax?
So improvements, if it results in landlords spending more money on improving their properties, creating better standards of living for their tenants, that will be a good thing. If we also get some people who might otherwise have gone off and bought a rental property saying, actually, we're going to invest in the productive economy and help to create jobs in the process, that will also be a good thing.
What about when it comes to, because you were talking about the inheritance tax, some people, do you think that will make people hold off selling their homes? For example, if they go into a retirement village and have that as inheritance rather than selling their home? Like, is that a behavioural change that you expect from the CGT?
I don't expect many people wouldn't be in a position to do that.
On the bigger picture vision of wanting people to put their money more into the productive side of the economy, how long, I guess, would you say that might take as a sort of bigger project, like decades, or sort of reframing New Zealand's economy and how it functions?
All major shifts in the economy take time. If we want to move away from having, rental housing as being one of our primary forms of investment, that's not going to happen overnight. That is something that we need to work on as a country over a period of time. Introducing a capital gains tax, a narrow, targeted capital gains tax on rental properties and commercial properties, and saying to people, actually, we do want to encourage you to invest in the productive economy. That's a good start, but it will take time.
What are those things that mum and dad investors can put their money into? If it's not a second property, a retirement nest egg, where could they put their money? What are you suggesting?
There are a range of other investment options now that are that weren't necessarily available. If you look at KiwiSaver, for example, it wasn't available 20 years ago. KiwiSaver is a good, solid, reliable savings scheme for people who are saving for their retirement. That wasn't available 20 years ago. And more and more New Zealanders are doing that. There are other options available.
Property investors say they feel particularly singled out by this policy. Are they right?
we can't continue as we are as a country, just trying to make our money as a country, our livelihoods as a country by buying and selling residential properties. We have to invest in the productive economy. That means creating jobs. It means making sure that we're creating opportunity for the future. And I would say to all those mum and dad investors out there who have sought to do the right thing by buying a rental property to, contribute towards their retirement savings, do you want your kids to grow up living here, able to buy their own home, able to get a good, well-paid job so that they see a future here? Or do you want them to join the exodus of 200 New Zealanders a day who are leaving the country? That's not the future that I want for New Zealand.
Just to say that you have called them useless and unproductive, is that what you call them?
No, absolutely not.
So because that seems, they're saying to us that that's the characterisation they feel you've put on speculators. Why do you deny that?
I want to see New Zealand investing in the productive economy. That means growing jobs, growing opportunities for future generations of New Zealanders.
So are you
People
saying
putting
that
more and more
property
investment.
speculators are unproductive?
People putting more and more investment into residential rental properties isn't going to achieve that.
Are you saying you're unproductive?
That's not what I've said. But residential property, compared to investing in a business, is unproductive.
Can I just ask you something that you reference, and sorry, this is about yourself, something that you referenced, and I ask you this because you said this in a political speech, you referenced daughters, plural. Is that...
We have a blended family.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing new there. No, yeah.
You've made some pretty big commitments to workers and unions here today around, reinstating fair pay agreements, the 30-day rule and pay equity. Are those things that you plan to do kind of within your first 100 days if you are in government? And can you also clarify for pay equity, how far you're going to take that? Does that include, going back to underwriting the funded sector pay agreements?
What I've said is that we will reinstate fair pay agreements quickly. One of the things that I think we can reflect on from last time is because it took such a long time to get fair pay agreements in place, we weren't seeing the benefits of that, enough by the election. So I want to make sure we don't repeat that mistake, so get them back in place quicker.
Is that also about how you do that, what the agreements and the mechanisms or the structure around that actually looks like, so you don't get people just drawing out, I guess, bargaining over these agreements?
We'll be working on that policy between now and the election so that we have quite a detailed plan for how we will implement that after the election, and we'll be very transparent about that before the election. And same with the issues on fair pay, on pay equity. We're working through the policy on that at the moment about how we give effect to the commitment that we've made, which is that we want to see pay equity back on the table again.
Full reinstatement.
As I've said, I've already said we will reverse the current government's changes, and we're working through what that looks like at the moment.
So you'll pour another $13 billion into pay equity?
We will set out our plan on pay equity closer to the election.
Why don't you say yes, because you've said that you're going to reinstate it?
Well, one of the things we're doing is trying to get details out of the government about how they reached that $13 billion figure. They seem very reluctant to share that. So we are working through costing the commitments that we're making around pay equity.
So you question that figure, you don't think it's that much, and therefore you
Well,
don't believe you...
they haven't released the costing estimates for how they arrived at the $13 billion. So what we are in the process of doing is costing what our commitments around pay equity are. So when we've said that we want to deliver pay equity for those workforces that had their pay equity claims cancelled by the government, we're going through the process of identifying how much that's going to cost.
Critics who argue this is Labour rewriting the cheque. To what fits whatever your narrative is.
Labour will have a fully costed fiscal plan that will release before the election, but there's still a lot of water to flow under the bridge. Bearing in mind that many of those workforces that are subject to pay equity claims are also in regular bargaining at the moment, and there is a relationship between the two.
So can I just clarify on that? Regardless of the $13 billion figure, there might be some differences of opinion around that or how you got there. Your commitment to reinstate those claims that were there, those 33 claims, that includes those that were part of the funded sector. So you have a commitment to underwriting that.
What we have said is that we want to see those claims progressed. Well, I don't want to go through a law change process that sees them all extinguished once again, so that every time they feel like they're making progress, they have to go back to the drawing board. So we'll be working with the unions who have lodged those claims over the next 12 months to make sure that we can reinstate that commitment to pay equity without constantly resetting the clock.
And you also took a question about the Aotearoa Histories curriculum draft come out yesterday. You also said you don't want it to become a political football, but is that's something that you would change, that you would, reinstate if you were empowered?
When I was the Minister of Education, we did do work around the curriculum, and we worked hard not to have that become a political football. We consulted widely with the community, with other political parties. We tried to get something that was as much driven by consensus as possible. I don't think that the curriculum should be a political football. What our kids learn in school shouldn't change when the government changes. Education is too important for that. This government are politicising the curriculum in a way that no previous government has.
Will you change the curriculum though? You say you don't want the curriculum to change when the government changes, but you're also saying that what they've brought in is not right, or you don't agree with the whitewashing. And
that process is still ongoing, and it's not due to finish before the next election. But what I'm saying is that we will return to a much more collaborative approach for finalising the curriculum than the current government are
We spoke
adopting.
yesterday about the information about this policy coming out early. Have you received any more information about how that happened?
No. As I've said, I've been around politics long enough to know that you very seldom find out how this sort of information makes its way into the public domain. But if we find out that somebody put it out there deliberately and maliciously, then they won't be a member of the Labour Party anymore.
You were also in Ryan Bridge this morning, and he asked about the reason given for postponing that interview being that there was an event with children.
I was pretty upfront with them. When I found out that the policy had been leaked, my goal was to get the policy ready for release as quickly as possible, and we needed the morning to do that, and then we released it a few hours later.
Why did he say that reason though?
Oh, look, I don't know what happened there.
On Russia sanctions, are you aware Reuters has been reporting on an investigation about a New Zealand-based insurance company that's been insuring ships that have been shipping around Iranian oil to Russia? Are you aware of that?
I haven't been briefed on that, and I haven't seen the report.
Did anything come across your desk when you were in government? It dates back to the last term, parliamentary term.
No, I certainly can't recall having seen anything. We were pretty quick on Russian sanctions when new information came to light, and had that information come to light at that time, I'm sure we would have acted on it. So I certainly can't recall having ever seen it.
Maritime Mutual doesn't ring a bell.
No.
On tax, can you clarify whether people who have their family home in a trust will be hit by the CGT?
So the issue will be not who owns the property, and not the form of the ownership, but it'll apply regardless. So if you put it in a trust, if you put it in a company, you'll still pay the CGT.
So they will be liable.
You're not going to be able to dodge out of, if they've got their family home in a trust, no, absolutely not. The family home will never have that. But if you put other properties in, then yes, they will pay. So it's not based on how you own the property. The principle is whether it's a family home, then it's exempt. If it's not a family home, it's not.
In terms of the Green Party response to this, obviously they've called it a watered down policy, and in terms of looking forward to any future coalition negotiations, they've said that your policy would be the starting point, saying that they want to go further than that. How do you feel about those noises, and whether you can give a cast iron guarantee that this will stay how it is?
I have been absolutely clear that any deviation from this policy that we have announced will require a mandate from New Zealanders. This is the policy that we are campaigning on, and this is the policy that we will implement if we form government after the next election.
What's the
In your
mandate?
mind, it would only be if the Green Party was a bigger party than Labour in any future governing arrangement that would give them the mandate, in your mind, to choose fiscal policy.
Labour will vote in favour of the policy that we are campaigning on, and we will not go beyond that.
How can New Zealanders take those assurances, though, when we know with the current coalition government makeup the amount of power that minor parties can wield?
Yeah, because I'm not a complete pushover like Christopher Luxon. I don't think the smaller parties should call all of the shots.
But there was a lot of changes that the previous Labour government made in 2017, like 3 strikes, commercial buildings.
I don't need to drop this same policy.
I have made it very clear that our tax policy is as far as we will go. So we won't be supporting things that we haven't campaigned on and that we don't have a mandate from New Zealanders for.
You would rather sit on the opposition benches than
I don't think it will ever come to that.
CG. You don't think it will come to that?
But basically you're confident that the Greens will, even as they say they want to go further, they won't consider it a bottom line themselves.
All political parties differentiate in an election campaign. I've been very clear what Labor's policy is, and that is the policy that we will support.
Basically, you're saying that you're going to beat them in a steering contest.
You don't have to be like Christopher Luxon, roll over and let Winston Peters and David Seymour tickle your tummy. I'm being very clear that Labor will support the policy that we are campaigning on.
What's been the
the
feeling in caucus towards the leaker? How are people feeling about that happened?
We haven't had a caucus meeting. Obviously, everyone's around the country at the moment because it's Parliament's not sitting this week. I think people were very disappointed that the information came out publicly. But we're all focused now on reminding New Zealanders that under Labor they will get 3 free visits to the doctor, and that is being very, very well received by New Zealanders.
Do you think it's possible that there's enough anger that people might sort of do their own investigations to find out who the potential leaker is? And
I think my colleagues are out and about today, and I'm getting huge feedback from them that they're getting a really warm reception about the fact that we're going to offering people 3 free doctors' visits under a future Labor government. People see that as a big help. People are excited by what that's going to do for our public health system. They see the benefits that all New Zealand families will gain through this. That's what they're talking about today.
Are you feeling Lois Walbrook today was again, indicating that she'd be keen to be the next Finance Minister. Nicola Willis seemed to think that was the case yesterday in her press conference. What's your position?
Nicola Willis is sounding more and more desperate by the day. They're really just grasping at straws, trying to find anything that they can scaremonger about. I have been very clear. I have been very, very clear. Under a Labor government, I will be the Prime Minister. Barbara Edmonds will be the Minister of Finance. That is not up for negotiation.
When did you decide to pair the CGT and doctors' visits together? How did that come about?
It's been an ongoing policy development process over the last 2 years. After the election, I said everything's back on the table, and it was.
Oh no, I mean pairing them together though. It's when was that?
As I said, our policy development process, which you're now starting to see the outcomes from, has been ongoing over the last 2 years.
Are you feeling the pressure as Labor leader to get a CGT over the line to successfully campaign on it, given Labor's sort of checkered history there? And are you confident that the public actually wants it?
I believe that the capital gains tax policy that we have put forward is responsible. I believe it's balanced. I believe it's simple and easy to understand, and it's deliverable. And I think it's time that New Zealand took that step. We're one of the only countries in the world that doesn't do this.
You said that in your speech that you needed to take the public along with you though on issues like this because progress can so easily be undone. How do you plan on taking the public along with you on this issue?
We're going to get out there and campaign so that they vote for it at the next election.
Part of your pitch, it seems, is, encouraging people to think about the future generation. When politics are more sort of oriented towards personal gain, a lot of policies are about what you can personally gain. Do you think that will be a challenge to sort of sell to people?
Politics is about both of those things. I get a lot of feedback from New Zealanders when I'm out and about who are really anxious about the long-term future of this country. The number of parents and grandparents who are really worried that their kids and grandkids are leaving the country with no intention of coming back, that number grows every day. They want to know that we are being responsible as political leaders, that we're making the decisions today that are going to give them a reason to stay tomorrow.
Why were farms excluded?
Farms are productive businesses, effectively. We want to see investment in the productive economy. Farms are businesses. They're producing goods for exports, goods for New Zealanders.
What happens if a growing business sells its premises to buy a bigger premises? Do they have to pay a CGT?
If it's working capital, then no, they won't have to pay a CGT.
What happens if a family home has been a rental for a time?
It'll be much the same as existing tax rules. So there are the tax working group has set out quite detailed recommendations on how you treat individual scenarios like that, and we'll be following their guidance.
Will that be from the July 2027 though? So how you live in your family home longer, but just say in 2026 they live 6 months as their family home, rented it out for 9 months. From July 2027, is that a family home or a rental home?
So the capital gains tax would only apply from the point at which it became a rental property.
Okay.
And so what about this example? What if they rented it out for 2 years and then they were thinking of selling it, so they booted out the tenants and they quickly moved back, and therefore I don't know, 2 weeks, and then they were like, we live here now, and then they sold it.
Well, if they did that before 2027, then no capital gains tax would apply.
Okay, and how is every single residential investment property and commercial property meant to be valued in July 2027? Council valuations aren't accurate,
So
according to my source.
there's a whole chapter in the tax working group's report around valuation day and how that can be applied. The people who will obviously be in the greatest hurry to get a valuation are those who have plans to sell, within short order. But the tax working group has set out what they think is a reasonable process around valuation, which does allow for quite a significant period of time for that valuation process to take place.
And property investors, they will argue, why are shares excluded? How is buying and selling shares on the market more productive than rental properties?
We decided to keep this simple, so we have made sure that the rules are very clear, that it only applies to a particular class of assets, which are residential properties other than the family home and commercial properties.
Do you foresee any issues through the problems that we see in valuations or incorrect valuations? I mean, we've just seen a number of properties on Waiheke Island change their valuations. So.
No, as I said, there's a whole chapter in the tax working group's report about this, because they did foresee that there could be issues around valuation, agreeing on valuation, and they've set out quite detailed recommendations about how you can ensure that the valuations are fair and accurate.
What sort of impact do you think this will have on the property market? Investors say it'll mean less rentals for people because investors won't be really keen to jump into the market. Or do you think it'll just open it up for more first home buyers? What you're thinking?
If it opens up more properties for first home buyers, I think that will overall be a good thing. We do want to see more renters having the opportunity to buy their own homes.
So you said if there, but do you have any forecasts?
No, we haven't got any forecasts on that.
You haven't had any advice on what this will mean for them?
No, the tax working group, I think, indicated that they thought in the short term it would be a relatively minimal impact.
What about construction? Have you had any feedback on what it might effectively have on construction?
Ultimately, the main thing that's going to dictate construction is the level of demand for new homes. And at the moment, one of the things that's stopping demand for new homes is economic uncertainty. People don't go out and buy new homes if they don't know whether they're going to have a job.
Nicola Willis also says the valuation will just mean a huge payday for accountants and those sorts of people. Is there any truth to that?
Again, Nicola Willis just sounds more and more desperate every day. She's clutching at straws here, trying to find anything that she can scaremonger over. If I was Nicola Willis, I'd be spending my time not talking about the Labour Party, but trying to figure out how to get herself out of the mess that she's created for herself.
How many properties do you own?
My own family home, and we have a family beach house.
And so if you did sell that, you'd get caught up?
The beach house will be covered after the 1st of July 2027.
And you're happy to...
capital gains tax on that?
Yes.
How would you describe worker sentiment at the moment? Obviously we had the mega strike last week, neither side looks to be backing down, and as we get closer to Christmas, people have uncertainty around their pay packets, further industrial action could mean further days missed pay. Do you think that, how are workers feeling?
Overall worker morale across New Zealand is very low at the moment. There are, of course, some employers who are doing well and who are looking after their workers well, and morale in those workforces is high. But across the public sector workforce, morale is very, very low.
And do you think that workers have the energy to keep fighting for these things that they say are bottom lines around pay, around working conditions, around safe staffing levels?
My message to working New Zealanders who are frustrated by this government is pretty simple. This government want to wear you down and they want you to give up. Don't stop fighting.
Just lastly on the batch again, because National has put out one of its, you've said that they've started the essential attack ads. One of them is sort of mentioning to people that their batch in Gisborne essentially will be covered under the capital gains tax. So what do you make of the ads that we're seeing coming out from National and that style of politicking, and also, kind of pointing out that things like your own batch will get hit?
If Christopher Luxon wants to have a debate about our personal finances, bring it on. He sold 4 houses last year and made more money tax-free from doing that than he made in the Prime Minister's salary, which he paid tax on every dollar of. Why should he be able to make more than $600,000 in 1 year from flipping properties, whilst the people who go out and work hard every day for a living pay tax on every single dollar that they earn? If he wants to personally attack me and the fact that I own a beach house, then let's have a look at him and the fact that he is not willing to pay tax like every other New Zealander does.
Do you think that the fact that the coalition, MPs in the coalition parties own a huge amount of property will, affect the discourse on this topic?
Look, I'm not going to attack people for the decisions that they have made in the past. I want to send a message that in the future we want people investing in productive businesses. We want to see New Zealand growing opportunities through growing employment, creating more jobs, creating more prosperous businesses that are going to raise the standards of living for all of us.
Has your president been asked to speak to those that voted against the CGT and question them as to whether or not they leaked?
No.
No.
Are they going to do that though?
I think she's already sent a very clear message to everybody involved in the decision-making process that we have a process and we expect everyone to stick with it.
When you say she sent a very clear message, how was that message sent?
I think they've had a meeting already. The party's meeting a lot at the moment through policy development processes, and I think everyone's had a bit of a reminder that these processes are confidential until we decide to release them.
What was that last night?
telling off.
What's that?
A meeting last night?
A reminder has gone around, and there have been other meetings where people have been reminded.
So
All right.
2 separate reminders, one meeting and one email.
Look, we don't share our internal communications, but I don't think anyone needs any further reminders. All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.